Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Jordan and welcome back to the channel. I know, craziness, 2 videos in 1 week, but today is actually a very special episode as we are actually going to be covering all the information dump that we got in the EA Play Live 2020 event for the new Star Wars Squadron game that's supposed to be coming out later this year. This is shaping up to be a really cool, awesome looking Star Wars dogfight game, and I think you guys are really going to want to check it out. So let's go over the info. So before we actually got the new trailer of gameplay that really broke down all the information, we actually got a short interview with Motive's creative director Ian Fraser. During the interview, he let us know that the origins of this game actually came from a small team of developers that stayed around after the completion of Battlefront 2. And so they had already just got done working on a Star Wars game, but they really wanted to do something more as far as like the flying and dogfighting aspect of the game, which I think is really cool. Now, what he did confirm about the game is that it is going to be coming out on PS4, Xbox One, and PC, and he did confirm already that there's going to be cross-play with all platforms, and it doesn't matter what medium you're using to play. If you're playing on a screen, if you're playing in VR, there is going to be cross-play between them, which is awesome. I mean, as someone who plays a lot of VR games, and especially multiplayer VR games, one of the biggest things that can hurt multiplayer is not having a big enough player base. So the fact that we're going to be able to play this in VR and have access to everyone on all the consoles who's going to be playing it as well, that's really going to open it up and give us a lot of options of people to play with. Now, I do think it's a little bit strange that there was no mention of any next-gen consoles like the new Xbox or the PlayStation 5, but it does make a bit more sense because he did say that this game is going to be releasing on October 2nd, 2020. So early October, that's probably before, as far as we know, that's going to be before the next-gen consoles actually release. We're thinking at earliest, maybe at the end of October, but recent leaks have been saying that, the PS5 wouldn't be coming out until mid to the end of November, which makes a lot of sense. That's usually when most consoles come out. But yeah, so there's no mention of that, but I could easily see this game being ported over to the new consoles, especially with it being, a month or two away before they come out. I think they're really going to want to take advantage of the processing power of those new consoles, so I'm sure we'll hear something about that. Now, getting into the actual gameplay itself, they start out by mentioning that the story is based around 2 pilots that you switch between. One is for the Empire and the other one is for the New Republic. And we don't get a ton of info on the world itself, but it seems that the story is really just a way to get you accustomed to the different ships and the controls before you actually hop into multiplayer. And in fact, they even mentioned that you're going to need to play the 8 different ships, or at least have time with the 8 different ships before you can actually jump into multiplayer. So those 8 ships seem to be broken down over 4 classes, and those would be the fighter class, which involves the TIE Fighter and the X-Wing, and these seem to be the most well-rounded ships that can take on most situations. Then there's the Interceptor class that includes the TIE Interceptor and the A-Wing. These are the fastest ships and apparently very maneuverable, and they specialize in hunting down opponent starfighters. Next, we have the Support class, which consists of the TIE Reaper and U-Wing ships. They seem to have the ability to resupply enemies and have some type of support disruptor abilities for enemies, like maybe shutting off their engines temporarily or something like that. And lastly, we have the Bomber class, which consists of the TIE Bomber and the Y-Wing. These ships cause lots of damage to enemy flagships and starfighters. Inside of each one of these ships, there seems to be a lot of information in the cockpit once you're actually sitting inside of it, and they showed us a bunch of information showing that the cockpit shows the components, which seem to be ship mods. They mentioned that there are about 50 available, and they affect how you fly, fight, and survive during battles. And some of the examples of mods they showed were that you could get a tractor beam, you could get mines, and you could get drones that you could use throughout the game. There's also your laser charge, ship status indicator, combat display, power management, speed indicator / throttles, and sensors, which probably show, what ships are around you, or maybe, if there's some type of mod from another ship that's being used against you. Lastly, they go over the 2 main modes in multiplayer, which include the dogfight mode and the fleet battles mode. Now, the dogfight mode just seems to be a 5v5 team deathmatch type mode. We don't get a ton of information on it, but it seems pretty straightforward, and that would kind of explain why they also put the bulk of the attention on fleet battles, which is apparently the game's signature game mode. They let us know that the mode is available in PvP or PvE against bots, and before you actually get into the fight itself, they let you know that you can meet up in a social hub, which actually sounds really cool. I mean, like being able to hang out with your team, especially if you're in VR, and really get to like strategize around a table, which is what they showed, sounds really cool. And it also sounds like it would be super immersive, and it would probably amp me up before a fight. So the Battlefleet mode breaks down like this. They say that you start out with a mid-map dogfight, and it seems like whoever wins that fight or whoever gets pushed back in the fight will either have to defend or destroy 2 medium-sized capital ships. Then after that, the final stretch of the match is destroying the subsystems of your opponent's gigantic flagships. So like say you're playing for the New Republic, you will then have to destroy the subsystems of the giant Star Destroyer on the other team, which looks so sick. And I have to say, I can't even imagine what the scale of these ships are going to look like when you're actually in game, especially in VR. Like it's probably going to be massive, and I'm super excited for this. They say for each phase, the squad leader is the one that actually decides, whether your team is going to push forward or if they're going to fall back and defend. And it seems like that's going to determine how your team actually plays. And I'll have to see how that's going to work, especially if your squad leader sucks. It sounds like, that could really hurt your chances of winning, but I guess that's kind of how it would work in real life anyway, or at least how it would work in that situation. If you have a leader that's bad, your team's probably not going to do that great. But it does get me excited to think about if this game does pick up steam, if it does pick up a lot of popularity, there's probably going to be plenty of groups that are trying to do looking for groups or LFGs, probably on like Reddit or Discord, and that sounds really cool and futuristic. Like, I mean, could you imagine getting really good at this game and you have a reputation that precedes you as a pilot? That pretty much makes you, the real life version of Han Solo or Poe Dameron. So yeah, I think that would be really cool if you go to a LFG and they're like, oh, I know you, that, just check me out then, because I've made it. That's officially heaven at that point. Okay, maybe not heaven, but it would be pretty awesome. During the video, they also mentioned the fact that there are a ton of different customization options for both your ship, the components that you can get, as well as your character. And they also worded it specifically to say you get these things just by playing the game. They're trying to make it clear, hey, microtransactions aren't going to be a thing, or at least everything's going to be available without microtransactions. I'm still a bit skeptical. It's still EA. They did good with the last Star Wars game, but I'm not going to hold my breath in thinking that they're going to completely change, so we'll have to see. But yeah, it seems like there's going to be a ton of customization options, and they're at least hinting at the fact of minimal, if no, microtransactions for customization. Lastly, they wrap things up by showing us a couple different play styles of like, how you can be more stealthy, how you can be a quick pilot and everything like that, and just a bunch of different ways that you can play the game. And this got me really excited because it gives me that feeling that they're trying to make a game that is easy to learn but hard to master. And these are usually the best type of games that are usually the most rewarding once you're actually able to get them down. And those are also the games that have the most replayability. I mean, it's a completely different game, but I think of like Super Smash Brothers in that same vein, a game that is easy to learn, and you can get the controls down pretty fast, but it's really hard to master. But once you start playing at a really high level, it makes things look so cool. I mean, even during the interview with Ian Fraser, they made this mention about, he talked about some of the different techniques that you can use, and he mentioned that you could boost your engines to get past and cut off an enemy, do a 180, and shoot your missiles from your tail while drifting backwards. Like, that sounds, forgive my language, straight badass. And I think that if that's the type of play styles that are available to us, we're going to see some really cool gameplay and some really cool strategies, especially once people start getting this game down and we start seeing it at a high level. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all the info that they gave us. I don't know, guys. I know that I'm excited. I'm really geeked out for this game right now. If you guys are just as excited, let me know in the comments, or maybe what you're hoping to see from this game, or even if you have some skepticism. I mean, it is EA. We always try to take the things that they do with a grain of salt, but this seems like it's shaping up to be really cool. I hope that they follow through, and it seems like we're only going to get it in just a few months here in October. But yeah, if you guys could go ahead, leave a like on this video, and if you're new to my channel, please go ahead and subscribe. It really helps me out. And yeah, let me know what you guys think. I hope you have a great rest of your day. God bless you, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.